Part 104. This is Patrick Machayo and welcome. The title of today's episode is When Institutions Lose Credibility, Congress, the Media, and the Judiciary in an Age of Democratic Strain. In this four-part series, we are going to examine why key institutions in American democracy are losing public trust, why that matters at this moment, as we approach 250 years of independence, and what it means for the future of governance. Lately, I have been discussing the fragmentation of our democracy, the leadership challenges facing our society, and the growing absence of credibility in the institutions that are meant to hold the system together. Today, we begin with a simple but urgent question. What happens when the institutions people rely on to govern, inform, and adjudicate begin to lose public confidence all at the same time? For a long time, these institutions played distinct but complementary roles. Congress was responsible for representing the people and creating laws. The media was responsible for informing the public and providing a shared understanding of events. The judiciary was responsible for interpreting the law and acting as a stabilizing force. That system depended on trust. It did not require perfection, but it required a baseline level of credibility. Today, that baseline is weakening. When people look at Congress, they often see gridlock, partisanship, and an inability to respond to urgent issues. When they look at the media, they see fragmentation, competing narratives, and questions about bias. When they look at the judiciary, they increasingly see decisions that feel political rather than neutral. Each of these perceptions, whether fully accurate or not, contributes to a broader pattern. Confidence is declining across multiple institutions at the same time. That is what makes this moment different. It is not just that one institution is under pressure. It is that several pillars of the system are being questioned simultaneously. When that happens, the effect is cumulative. People begin to rely less on institutions and more on their own experience. They begin to interpret events through personal lenses rather than shared frameworks. This is where the connection to democratic strain becomes clear. Democracy relies not only on formal structures, but on the belief that those structures are functioning in a credible way. When that belief weakens, participation becomes more uncertain, and consensus becomes harder to achieve. As we move through this series, we will look more closely at each of these institutions and what is driving this loss of credibility. We will also explore what this means for leadership and for the future of democratic governance. In this first part, we have introduced the central issue. The simultaneous decline in trust across Congress, the media, and the judiciary is creating a new kind of strain on American democracy. As you reflect on this, consider what credibility means in a system like this and why it matters so much. In the next part, we will take a deeper look at Congress and why it has become a focal point for public frustration. This is Patrick Machayo, and thank you for listening. Part 2 of 4. This is Patrick Machayo, and welcome back. This is part 2 of our four-part series on the loss of credibility across key American institutions. In the previous episode, we introduced the central idea that trust is declining across Congress, the media, and the judiciary. Today, we focus specifically on Congress. Congress is designed to represent the people. It is meant to debate, negotiate, and produce legislation that reflects the needs of the country. But increasingly, it is seen as ineffective. One of the reasons for this perception is gridlock. When major issues remain unresolved for long periods of time, people begin to question whether the system is working at all. The process of compromise, which is essential to democracy, is often interpreted as weakness or failure. Partisanship also plays a role. Political divisions have become more pronounced, and cooperation across those divisions has become more difficult. This reinforces the idea that Congress is more focused on internal conflict than on solving problems. At the same time, expectations have changed. People want faster results. They want policies that translate into visible improvements in their daily lives. But Congress operates within a structure that is intentionally slow and deliberative. That gap between expectation and reality creates frustration. When people do not see progress, they lose confidence. And when confidence declines, the legitimacy of the institution begins to weaken. This does not mean Congress is no longer functioning. It means that its ability to persuade the public that it is functioning effectively has diminished. That distinction is important. As we move forward, the question is not just whether Congress can pass legislation, but whether it can rebuild credibility in the eyes of the public. In this part, we have focused on why Congress has become a focal point for frustration and how that contributes to the broader decline in institutional trust. In the next episode, we will turn to the media and examine how changes in the information environment are shaping public perception. This is Patrick Machayo, and thank you for staying with me. Part 3 of 4. This is Patrick Machayo, and welcome back. This is part 3 of our 4-part series on the loss of credibility across American institutions. So far, we have discussed the broader decline in trust and taken a closer look at Congress. Today, we turn to the media. The media plays a central role in democracy. It informs the public, provides context, and helps create a shared understanding of events. But that role has become more complicated. The information environment has changed dramatically. Instead of a limited number of sources, we now have a wide range of platforms, perspectives, and narratives. This has increased access to information, but it has also increased fragmentation. People are often exposed to different versions of the same story. Over time, this can lead to confusion and skepticism. Trust in the media has been affected by this shift. When people encounter conflicting information, they begin to question which sources are reliable. In some cases, they may turn away from traditional media altogether. Social media amplifies this dynamic. Information spreads quickly, but it is not always verified. Opinions and facts can become difficult to distinguish, and narratives can gain traction based on emotion rather than accuracy. This environment makes it harder for the media to serve as a unifying force. It also places greater responsibility on individuals to evaluate information critically. That is not an easy task, especially when the volume of information is so high. The result is a more active but also more fragmented public conversation. In this part, we have explored how changes in the media landscape contribute to the broader loss of credibility in institutions. In the final episode, we will examine the judiciary and consider what all of these trends mean for the future of democracy. This is Patrick Machayo, and thank you for continuing this discussion. Part 4 of 4. This is Patrick Machayo, and welcome back. This is part 4 of our 4-part series, and the final episode in this discussion on the loss of credibility across American institutions. In the previous episodes, We looked at Congress and the media. Today, we turn to the judiciary and then bring these ideas together. The judiciary has traditionally been seen as a stabilizing force. It is meant to interpret the law and operate independently of political pressure. But in recent years, public perception has begun to shift. Some court decisions have been viewed through a political lens, leading to questions about neutrality. Whether those perceptions are fully accurate or not, they influence how people view the institution. When the judiciary is seen as less impartial, its credibility is affected. Now consider the broader picture. Congress is struggling with trust. The media is facing fragmentation, and the judiciary is being questioned. These are not isolated developments. They interact with each other. When all three institutions face declining confidence at the same time, the effect on democracy is significant. It becomes harder to build consensus. It becomes harder to establish shared understanding. And it becomes harder for leadership to operate effectively. As we approach 250 years of independence, this is one of the defining challenges of our time. Democracy is not collapsing, but it is under strain. The loss of credibility does not mean the system has failed, but it does mean the system must adapt. Rebuilding trust will require effort across institutions and engagement from the public. It will require clarity, consistency, and a renewed focus on connecting decisions to lived experience. In this final part, we have brought together the key elements of this discussion. The loss of credibility across Congress, the media, and the judiciary is creating a new kind of pressure on American democracy. The question now is how we respond to that pressure. This is Patrick Machayo, and I want to thank you for engaging with this 4-part series and being part of this conversation.